Hey everybody, Sara Connolly here, and this is my sister Kara Matoka, and we are users and distributors of Young Living essential oils and products. And we felt the need to do a video because this topic isn't touched on that much, and that is the history of Young Living, and more importantly, Gary Young's story, who is the founder of Young Living. Because we believe to understand Young Living and the Young Living difference, you need to understand Gary's story and his intention behind getting into the essential oil business, if you will. But initially it was to heal himself. So we're going to make this as fast as humanly possible, but I think it's good for everybody to have a little understanding of his background. And you can get a more in-depth understanding by actually purchasing and reading his biography that his wife, Mary Young, wrote. It's quite fascinating. You learn so much. So just to dive in right away, Gary's accident. This is what started him on the path of learning how to heal himself. All right, so Gary grew up on a ranch in Idaho. He had a dream of going to Canada and homesteading a ranch on the Canadian frontier. When he was 18, his dream came true when he moved to British Columbia. In 1968, he got in on the last Homestead Act in the Caribou District with 320 acres, 30 miles in the wilderness, where he began building his horse ranch and logging business. At 24 years old, on February 8, 1973, Gary suffered a severe logging accident when a cut tree sheared off and hit him in the head, resulting in 3 open skull fractures, a ruptured spinal cord in 3 places that was classified as an incomplete break, 11 ruptured discs, 16 broken and/or crushed vertebrae, a broken pelvis, the right scapula broken in 9 pieces, a severed brachial plexus, and 19 broken bones, which included all of his ribs on the right side and several on the left. That's insane.
Yeah, when he actually arrived at the hospital, from what I read in this book, they left him on a gurney in the hallway because they didn't think he was going to survive.
They just assumed he was gonna die. That's how bad of a state he was in. Suffering with intense pain with the use of only his left arm, he was confined to a wheelchair with a medical prognosis that he would never walk again. His life was one of 13 drugs, including morphine and an antidepressant, in a world that seemed dark and hopeless with no light at the end of the tunnel. After 2 failed suicide attempts, he sunk into an even deeper state of depression. He had no insurance and slowly lost everything: his logging equipment, his ranch, and his livestock. His wife took the children and left him, unable to cope with his current condition and the burden of the future. In his 3rd suicide attempt, he decided to fast himself to death. It was the only way out. No one could rescue him or force him to eat, but after 253 days of only drinking water and lemon juice, the most unexpected happened. He felt movement in his right toe. The doctors explained it as one of those unexpected medical phenomena. They suspected that because of his fasting, his body did not get the needed nutrients necessary to manufacture scar tissue, enabling some nerve endings to reroute and reconnect, which was the beginning of many years of intense pain in his struggle to walk again. He reconciled himself to living in misery and hopelessness and to finding a new path of life where he could just survive. Because he couldn't go back to logging and farming, his mind began to expand as he started exploring different avenues of healing and the world of books. He stopped all medications to clear his mind and began experimenting with different modalities and many avenues of study. Attending a community college, going to massage school, running his own health food store, and growing in his knowledge of herbs and natural healing, his amazing road to recovery brought attention from many people wanting help.
Yes. Okay, so this is the recovery phase. Gary moved to Southern California, where he continued with his education by enrolling in naturopathic college. Simultaneously, he opened a small office in Chula Vista, California, and built a research center for physical and emotional well-being in Rosarito Beach in the Baja California, Mexico area. Gary's single desire was to help people find answers and solutions to their own problems. Through 13 years of constant debilitating pain and frustration, Gary went from a wheelchair to a walker, to crutches, to a cane, to very painful slow walking. But walking again, as painful as it was, kept him determined to discover new possibilities of healing. Gary's first introduction to essential oils. Gary learned about essential oils from a woman named Anna Marie, who brought her sister, who was not doing well, from Switzerland to his research center to see if she could find some help. Anna Marie had grown up working in the natural health products industry and had her own laboratory and formulated various health products. She had been studying essential oils and their health benefits for many, many years. She gave Gary some research that she had translated from the French about essential oils, as she felt he would be interested, and invited him to attend a conference that was taking place on the following week in Geneva, Switzerland, where medical doctors were presenting their research on essential oils and their effects on the respiratory illnesses. So this was the jumping off point for Gary. This was the beginning of his essential oil journey and the possibilities they offered for physical, emotional, and spiritual application.
All right, so this is where Gary's whole mind just exploded with the idea of essential oils, because at that time there was no books, there wasn't the internet, there was nothing to just kind of educate yourself. In my opinion, it was divine intervention to have these people enter his life just at the right time to understand how he could heal himself.
And it was divine intervention too, that he even starved himself for almost a year, and to have his nerves do what they did to actually help educate him more about his body.
Yep. So, all right, so Gary's essential oil research in France. So Gary was invited by the French medical doctors to travel to France and join them as they made rounds in the hospital in which they were conducting their research. He returned home from France with 13 oils and began experimenting with them to discover and learn more about their usage and application. There were no books available that were written in English about essential oils, let alone anything on usage and application, and the French medical doctors were publishing in journals that were only in French. This truly put Gary on the frontier of essential oil science as he began to discover what oils and oil combinations to use, what worked better, and how to apply them. With no written information in the US, no internet, and virtually no one with any conclusive experience, the frontier was his. So he boldly went forward against tremendous criticism and warnings. He even began infusing his herbal formulas with essential oils and was impressed with the increased efficacy of the supplements. He felt so much excitement that he wanted to share his feelings with the world, hence where this whole idea of young living was already brewing before he knew it. But the world was not ready for his discoveries. They just laughed and slandered him and said it was impossible. Gary decided to sell his research facility and start his own marketing company. He could teach many more people at the same time than he could by helping one person at a time, day by day. He wanted to teach and share his new knowledge and excitement. His thirst for more knowledge heightened with a desire to study distillation. With his farming background, he had a natural interest in growing, harvesting, and extraction of the oils from aromatic plants, adding a new path of research and discovery. France seemed like the place to go and learn about distillation, but he didn't know anyone, and the French weren't exactly open to sharing their secrets. French lavender was their claim to fame, and they didn't want anyone else, especially an American, getting involved or interfering. Gary flew to France a few times a year, determined to learn about distillation. In a small rental car, he drove the countryside looking at the fields and distilleries from the roadside. He found a few people who spoke English, but there was little they would tell him, which created a lot of frustration. So here comes the birth of Young Living, and it started with humble beginnings. When you think about how big this company is now, with millions and millions of distributors and users of Young Living, to just hear how it first started with it was just Gary, party of one, doing everything himself, it's incredible. So when Gary started his new business, he was a one-man band. Monday through Thursday, he answered phones, took orders, packaged, and shipped. He filled the oil bottles by hand in his little lab and hand wrote the labels. Anything he couldn't do, he contracted out piece by piece. On Thursday, he would turn on his answering machine and fly out to a different city, such as Phoenix, Los Angeles, or Dallas, and then travel around with his members and friends to hold meetings and grow his little business. No different than people doing their Essential 101 classes, just to teach and educate. And then Sunday night, he returned home to get ready for all of the orders that he hoped would start coming in on Monday. It was truly a simple beginning with real intent to give something to the world that he loved, that he believed would benefit mankind, because he knew how it was working for him. So there's a few people that entered his life. They were all French. They all came at the perfect time to teach him different legs of the production process, from harvesting to extraction. So the first, and you can read in detail in this book how that all came about in detail, and these were all long-lasting friendships for over 25, 30 years. But Jean-Noel Landel was his first French connection. And Gary actually met him at an expo in California because Jean-Noel was trying to sell his lavender. And they just got to talking, and so Jean-Noel was the first one to actually bring Gary to France and show him how he grew lavender, and they just became very close friends. And then through Jean-Noel, he introduced him to other people in the lavender business, and one was Philippe, and I cannot pronounce his last name, so we're just going to call him Philippe for now. But Philippe, he wasn't a farmer, he didn't have any distilleries, but he opened Gary's mind to the emotional and spiritual aspect of oils. It wasn't just about the physical healing, he also introduced him to the emotional and spiritual healing. And then Jean-Noel also introduced Gary to a man named Marcel Espiau, who also turned out to be a great mentor and friend, but who was very skeptical of Gary and didn't really want to help him in the beginning. But he was the president of the Lavender Growers Association. So he was the first person to start teaching Gary how to distill oils. And Gary would just volunteer his time on the farm. He worked for free. He just soaked up all the information, took notes, because he really wanted to understand the distillation part, because that is key. And then the most integral relationship and the most important to Gary that Jean-Noel also introduced Gary to, and it took about 5 years for Gary to finally meet this man. His name was Henri Viard, and he was known as the father of distillation. And they actually met at a dinner party. And Gary was actually really nervous around him, and Henri was basically interviewing Gary and wanted to know what essential oils meant to him. And feeling tremendous pressure and with much anxiety, Gary said, "I believe that essential oils are the closest physical and tangible substance that carries the Spirit of God on earth." And pointing his finger at Gary and in a dramatic tone of voice with a heavy French accent, he said, "You are right, and anyone who messes with them should be treated like a criminal." And then he stood up and left. And that began almost like an apprenticeship between Gary and Henri. And Henri taught him the whole production process from beginning to end, with planting, harvesting, and the most important is the distillation and extraction. So it's just such a great read to really understand all these relationships and everything that Gary understood. The whole process he learned in France as an apprentice. So I'm just gonna, and then Kara's gonna close here. But just to close this whole bit, because we're only giving you a little taste of what's in this book, Gary spent 30 years of his life researching the ancient ways and traditional methods of distilling from the last century. He has sadly watched the true art of distillation slowly being lost to fast extraction with modern equipment and chemicals. Plant care has gone to chemical fertilizers and pesticides that have weakened plant immunity and reduced the quality of the oil, causing lower levels of chemical constituents and even losing many valuable compounds. Nutrient-depleted soil is unattended, resulting in weaker plants and loss of quality. High-tech laboratories both recreate chemical molecules to add for increased volume and or manipulate the chemical composition for a more pleasant smell for a greater marketing advantage. Profit. A true, unadulterated, pure essential oil as God intended is difficult to obtain, as even many growers and distillery operators are lured into the practice of adulteration because of the desire for more money and power. From the time of Gary's accident and his discovery of essential oils, Gary has been committed to his research in the true art of distillation. Having used the oils to support his own personal journey and that of many others, he knows the difference between the pure and the adulterated, which has made his path very precise. Purity and quality of the oils are most important to him, regardless of the time and money that it takes to produce the desired results.
Yes, and that's where we come to the seed to seal process, which was established quite a while ago now from Young Living. Basically, Young Living, if they don't own their own farms, they partner with other farms. They're all organic, and their organic standards are far different from our American organic standards. Our organic standards in America is 7 years of no chemicals on the land, and Young Living's standard is 50 years of no chemicals on the land. So that is the one punch that you can always share with people. That makes a big difference. But we do partner with our farms if we don't own them. And as you can see, Gary created such strong, wonderful relationships because he was all about heart. His heart was fully into this. All he wanted to do was help heal other people. And so other countries and the rulers of other countries, for instance, Oman, saw this and allowed him into their country to grow specific plants for specific oils. So this is all in that book. And the seed to seal process is a very important thing to share with people that are asking you why Young Living. You can go to seedtoseal.com and learn all about that seed to seal promise. But I hope this was very helpful for you guys. You can see the heart and where he came from, and this is vitally important that we share this with others. Gary Young built this company on healing and helping others and not for profit.
And I was going to say, it's so important. A big part, marketing in this company, it's about word of mouth. And the most important thing to share is our own personal testimonies with the oils and products. Because you have to experience the healing process yourself before anyone else is going to believe that these truly heal. And Gary's the ultimate testimony. I mean, this guy was lying in a gurney left for dead. And was diagnosed with always being in a wheelchair and never walking again. And by healing himself naturally and using oils, he was able to walk again. He was able to live a fulfilled life and create this company to heal millions of other people naturally. So he's the ultimate testimony. So we just thought it was really important for you guys to hear his story and get this book and read it, because that's the ultimate testimony to share with anybody who might be interested or looking for alternate ways to heal themselves.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and feel free to message us if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to share with you. And if you're ready to sign up with Young Living, definitely message us and we'll get you hooked up.
Yep.
Have a great day.
Bye.